Lucy, this is a movie you can't take your eyes off. You've now got the richest man in the world, Elon Musk, teaming up with Donald Trump. They're both down there in Mar-a-Lago. Donald's put Elon in charge of sorting out the American version of the public service. I mean, this is just going to go all the way to January 20, and some of the appointments that he's made are just quite remarkable. I mean, in a sense, you wouldn't mind our style of government being able to have the Prime Minister choose from, you know, private enterprise, the best minds in the country, to actually do some good for the country.
Absolutely. And we're certainly feeling, I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm certainly feeling a little bit envious with these sweeping changes and bringing in people like Elon Musk. And a lot very quick to kind of dismiss him and to point him out as this eccentric and this kook and this man with all these crazy ideas. But he's one of the most intelligent men in the world. And Trump even said so in his acceptance speech. He said, this is a genius. This is the kind of level of intelligence and knowledge that we need to protect and encourage and foster within our nation. When you only consider what Elon did when he overtook Twitter, now known as X, he shaved off at least 80% of their staff, all designed with the view that effectively these people were just dead weight. They were just bureaucrats happy to collect a paycheck and couldn't really prove what they were doing. And I would venture to say that so many of us feel that way about many of our own politicians here in this country. I mean, having come from government myself and experience there, I can tell you very much that we are wasting money. We're spending money like it means nothing. And in a time like this, in a cost of living crisis, when there are so many issues economically that voters are very concerned about, this is the time when you need to start looking at how can we be more efficient with taxpayers' dollars. Elon has been given 2 years to be able to achieve this alongside Vivek Ramaswamy, who I think is fantastic, by the way. He, of course, ran, for those that don't know, as one of the Republican primaries for the presidential nominee race. And I thought he was brilliant, probably a little bit too young now in terms of what he could potentially achieve now as a president. But I think in years to come, he will certainly be up there and could be a potential candidate for a future presidency there. But he speaks so eloquently, and they've always spoken at length about draining the swamp, which is what this is intending to do. Elon's already projected that he could potentially save them $2 trillion. And when you've got a country that is the most in debt out of any other country in the world, and you're staring down the barrel of having to make such sweeping changes, Trump is doing exactly what he said he'd do, and drain the swamp is exactly what he needs to do.
Yeah, I hope Peter Dutton's taking some notice. Jono, the election campaign's clearly started. You had the PM in Tassie this week. He, announced a couple of candidates. He's out down there campaigning. Update me on what exactly is happening with the Tasmanian salmon farming issue, because Tanya Plibersek's still not made any decision on the aquaculture future. What's your understanding of where that's going to go?
Well, nothing has happened on that issue. It's only been a year now that the salmon workers on the west coast of Tasmania have been wondering whether they'll have a job tomorrow or not. But the government are no closer to making a decision on that. The PM flew into town and he announced 2 new U-Butte candidates to try and distract from the fact that his government have not made a decision when they well and truly should have by now. Looking at kicking it down the road for another year, well past the next election, because they don't want to actually answer Tasmanian voters on one side of the debate or the other about the decision they've made. So there is no clarity in sight for the workers on the west coast in Strawn, and it does rather reek of the fact that Tanya Plibersek is more fixated on clamouring for Green votes in Sydney than you would think the party that claims to be the friend of the worker is on protecting workers' jobs. They talk a big game, but there is absolutely nothing in sight there. They've installed a former Labor leader from the state parliament in as the candidate for Lyons. She, I might point out to your viewers, has lost 3 state elections in a row as Labor leader, and she's been gifted this job. The bloke who sits in the seat now, Brian Mitchell, was tapped on the shoulder and told to move on. So it's a consolation prize, and they're treating the voters of Lyons like mugs.
Lucy, last one for you. There's a place in Melbourne down where they've renamed the local lake. Now, they've renamed it after the founder of a Sikh faith. No consultation. It used to be called Berwick Springs. The lake's now called Guru Nanak Lake. No one down there was asked whether this was a good thing or a bad thing to have happen. And we find out today, Lucy, that there are 6,000 applications for Victorian place name changes that are going to be looked at in the next 12 months, and no one's asked about it. No one knocks on your door and says, "Can I call your suburb something else?"
It's not just insanity in the highest order here that this reeks of, but and it's also not just this issue that residents should be furious with, or the broader Victorian public. It's the fact that the Victorian government has also announced a further $600,000 will be granted for them to have events across Victoria to celebrate this grand 555th birthday. Now, let me just preface this by saying that I have absolutely no issue with people of their particular faiths celebrating and honouring them. That's not the issue. The issue to me is precisely what you were speaking about before, Steve, which is that there are so many other pressing problems in Victoria, notwithstanding the fact that you have police officers who are prepared to strike because the lack of, funding that's been given to them over their wage issues, right? We've got a rampant youth crime issue also down in Victoria. There are so many other more pressing priorities that the, Jacinta Allen government could be focusing on at a time like this instead of throwing money at these issues, which quite frankly, if you were to ask the broader public if this ranked quite high on their list of concerns, the resounding answer would be no. But once again, what we're seeing is the Labor government hell-bent on prioritising woke and, I guess, virtue signalling issues over common sense and logic, which is really...
Yeah, well said, Lucy. Jono, Lucy, thank you very much.